Hello and welcome back. Dear learners, in the previous lessons we have talked about the origin of the Russian language. We have also learned about the Russian alphabet, its structure and nature. As we have discussed that in Russian language, we have vowels and consonants, and according to the combination of vowel and consonants, we distinguish different sounds. In this series, we have specially deliberately attempted to make these kind of combinations comprising of vowels and consonants, so that you can distinguish between their sounds when used independently and combined together. We have also seen the usage of personal pronouns and possessive pronouns in Russian. We are also using words, expressions and verbs in making sentences. So far we have made several sentences like simple sentences, interrogative sentences, affirmative sentences and sentences with negations. We have seen the usage of da and niyat in our sentences. We use da in the affirmative and niyat in the negation. You have also seen that how verbs in Russian are being conjugated. The fundamental rule has also been taught to you. In the previous lesson, we have talked about the days of the week, as well as we have also talked about the months of the year. We have seen that how the agreement between the adjective and noun are used. These endings of adjectives are totally based on the endings of the noun, depending upon their gender. In Russian, in a very detailed manner, we have also discussed about the gender of the noun. We have seen that how the gender of the noun qualifies its adjective. The relationship between the adjective and noun are of the utmost importance. These importance of adjectives and nouns are being taught to you with a few examples in Russian. In the previous lesson, we have talked about the usage of что and кто. In this lesson, we will be discussing about the usage of что and кто in a more detailed manner. So, shall we go ahead? Dear learners, in the previous lessons, we have used the какой, какая and какое. As we have been discussing about the usage of какой, какая and какое, which indicates the gender of the adjective. These endings of adjectives according to the gender of a noun is used, as we use какой, which signifies which. For example, we have used новый журнал for masculine gender, новая книга for feminine gender and новое окно for neuter gender. We have also discussed about the gender of these nouns, where accordingly we have used the endings of the adjectives. Here now we are clubbing them together, so you have a fair idea of their ending as well as their construction. Please pay attention to these words and their adjectives and compare them: masculine, feminine and neuter gender. Новый журнал, новая книга, новое окно, красивый парк, красивая девушка, красивое здание, маленький город, маленькая рубашка, маленькая деревья, хороший человек, хорошая женщина, хорошее пальто. And последний день, последняя статья and последнее задание. These all new words and expressions were discussed. Now here we can see that how the ending of masculine, feminine and neuter are changing according to the ending of their nouns. For example, in masculine gender, we have nouns like journal, park, gorad, chilavek and jain, and accordingly the ending of the adjective is changing, like novi, krasivi, malinki, kharoshi and последний. Likewise, in the feminine gender also, where we have nouns of the feminine gender, the adjective of the feminine gender are changing accordingly. Please pay attention. Новая книга, красивая девушка, маленькая рубашка, хорошая женщина and последняя статья. In the neuter gender also, if you pay attention to the ending of the noun, the ending of the adjective are changing accordingly. Like новое окно, красивое здание, маленькое дерево, хорошее пальто and последнее здание. So these are the examples where we have used какой, какая and какое according to the gender of the noun, and accordingly the ending of the adjective is qualified. Let us see a few more examples where the plural nouns interrogative word какие is used. Какие? Какие это журналы? Это старые журналы. Какие эти книги? Это новые книги. Какие эти письма? Это последние письма. Dear learners, if we pay attention to the ending of the nouns, they are in plural. Журналы, книги and письма means magazines, books and letters, and accordingly if you pay attention to the interrogative word какие is used. So likewise you can also use какой, какая, какое and какие in making your own sentences. You can use these какой, какая, какое and какие in your own sentences, and combining together you can make simple text. Dear learners, if you remember, in the previous lessons we have also discussed about the counting in Russian, as we have discussed about 1 to 10 counting in Russian. Let us revise them once again, and after that we will be discussing more about more numbers in Russian. Please pay attention to the sequence as well as to the pronunciation of these new words. Один, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь, восемь, девять and 10, as we have 1 to 10 counting in Russian. Now we will start from 11 to 20. Please pay attention to the counting and pay attention to its pronunciation. 11 means 11, 12 means 12, 13 means 13, 14 means 14, 15 means 15, 16 means 16, 17 means 17, 18 means 18, 19 means 19 and 20 means 20. Here we have just learned the counting from 1 to 20. Now we will be learning the next part of the counting, that is from 21 to 30th. 21. 21. 22. 22. 23. 23. 24. 24. 25. 25. 26 26 27 27 28 28 29 29 and 30 30. Here, dear learners, you have just seen that how counting is very different and little bit difficult when pronounced for the first time. But if you pay attention to its construction, they are actually used in making all these new words from the first 10 words. For example, if you see that ajin has been used in ajinatsach, dwa has been used in dvinatsach, 3 has been used in trinatsach, chitiri has been used in chitirnatsach, pyaj in pitnatsach, shest in shesnatsach, sem in semnatsach, vosim in vosimnatsach, jevich in jevitnatsach and dvatsach. So, more or less you need to remember the first 10 words of counting in Russian, and afterwards it is a simple task. Let us go to the next slide. If you pay attention to the counting from 40 to 100, we have used sorak for 40, pijisyat for 50, shijisyat for 60, simjisyat for 70, vasimjisyat for 80, jivinosta for 90 and sto for 100. You can remember all these new words and use them in your own sentences. Dear learners, let's learn a few more new Russian words and expressions. As we have been discussing about, if you need to ask somebody how old he is or she is, we use a construction like Skolka vam let, which means how old are you. In reply to that, we always use mnie, then you use your counting. For example, if somebody is 20 years old, he would say мне 20 лет. If somebody is 25 years old, for example, he would use мне 25 лет. And accordingly in Russian, as we have just learned that in Russian we have days of the week as well as months of the year. But a year is called god in Russian. And accordingly, like we have just counted час in Russian, 1 час, 2 часа, 3 часа, 4 часа and 5 часов. Likewise, we also count год. 1 год, 2 года, 3 года, 4 года and 5 лет. This rule you need to remember, and whenever we are using more than 5, we use let in place of god. Please remember this. Let's go to the next sentence now. Сколько ему лет? How old is he? Or сколько ей лет? How old is she? Ему 1 год. He is 1 year old. Ему 2, 3, 4 года. He is 2 or 3 or 4 years old. You can use such constructions by your own. Let's go to the last sentence now. Ему 5, 6, 20 лет. So whenever beyond 5, we are using 5 as лет. Ему 5 лет, ему 6 лет or ему 20 лет. He is 5 years old, he is 6 years old or he is 20 years old. Please remember the basic rule which is applying here, how to change year from 1 to 4 and then 5, as well as the usage of мне, тебе, ему, ей, нам, вам and им. We will of course be discussing about the usage of these pronouns in a dedicated lesson. Before this, let's learn a few more verb conjugations. As we have discussed about the ending of these verb conjugations, here we have two new verbs. The first one is pisać, which means to write. We have the second verb here is uchitsa, which means to study. Dear learners, as in the beginning itself, if you pay attention to the ending of these verbs, like in the case of the first one pisać, it ends with the and soft sign, whereas in the second verb it is ending with sa and ya, that is why the pronunciation is uchitsa. Whenever these verbs with such kind of endings are used, you conjugate them according to the rule applied. Please pay attention to the conjugation of these verbs and their pronunciation till I read it for you. Я пишу, ты пишешь, она пишет, мы пишем, вы пишете, and они пишут. Учится. Я учусь, ты учишься, она учится, мы учимся, вы учитесь, and они учатся. Here, if you compare it with the first verb conjugations, they are totally different, but it is really simple to remember them only by understanding their endings. You must always keep in your mind and learn them according to their endings and the fundamental rules applied. You can also use these verbs in your own sentences. Let's go to the next set of verbs, pisać and uchitsa. Here again you can see the ending of these verbs and accordingly how they are being conjugated. Please pay attention to the conjugations and pronunciations. Pisać. Я пишу, ты пишешь, она пишет, мы пишем, вы пишете, они пишут. Учиться. Я учусь, ты учишься, она учится, мы учимся, вы учитесь, and они учатся. And accordingly you can also use these verbs in their conjugated forms in your own sentences. Here, as we have discussed the verbs of motion in Russian, here we are going to introduce you to the usage of the first verb of motion, that is idти. The second verb in the same category is ходить. The only difference between idти and ходить is that the first one shows an action which is incomplete, whereas ходить, it signifies complete action. As we have already done ходить in our previous lesson, let's learn more about the usage of verb idти, which means to go on foot. Идти. Я иду, ты идешь, она идет, мы идем, вы идете, они идут. Хотеть. Я хочу, ты хочешь, она хочет, мы хотим, вы хотите, они хотят. Dear learners, if you pay attention to the conjugated forms of these verbs, they are sounding different because their endings are different, and while learning all these verbs in their conjugated forms, you can also make your own chart of verbs which are similar and different. By doing this, you will be able to understand them in a more efficient manner, and you will be able to identify the exact verb conjugation. You can also use these verbs in their conjugated forms while making your own sentences. Dear learners, you must do this exercise at home. Dear learners, let's listen to this dialogue now, as there are some expressions which will prove to be very important in your day-to-day communication. Please pay attention to the words and expressions while I read it for you. Дайте мне, пожалуйста. The verb дать, which means to give, has been used here, is basically used in dative case. Let's look at the conjugation of the verb дайте мне. It is in we form. Вы дайте мне, пожалуйста. Give me please. The title of the dialogue is в магазине, which means at the shop. У вас есть красный и зеленый карандаш? Да, есть. А синий? Тоже есть. Вот разные карандаши. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, один красный и один синий карандаш. У вас есть красная шуба? Да, вот она. А черная шуба? Тоже есть. Пожалуйста. Dear learners, if we look at the dialogue here we have certain expressions like дайте мне, пожалуйста, which means give me please. You can always use this expression when you are into a Russian setting. Whenever in a Russian speaking atmosphere or environment, you can use these expressions which will prove to be very important for you. Here we have again used several words which signifies colors in Russian. Krasny is red, zelyony is green, sinny is blue, and when we use raznie, it means different. You can use raznie with anything. Raznie люди means different people, разные друзья means different friends, разные вещи means different things. Like we have used here разные карандаши means different pencils. Here again another thing which is shuba, fur coat. Since Russia is a very cold country, shuba is very popular. So this is again a very important word. У вас есть красная шуба? Да, вот она. А черная шуба тоже есть. Here and again another word тоже has been used, which means, as you know, means also. Пожалуйста here has been used in a context of saying спасибо, which means thank you. Let's go to the next section. Here in this dialogue form text we have used again different words and expressions. Please pay attention to the words and expressions while I read it for you. В киоске means at the kiosk. У вас есть независимая газета? Do you have the independent newspaper? Да, есть. Только она не сегодняшняя, а вчерашняя. Yes, have, but not of today's, yesterday's. As in Russian we use сегодня for today, вчера for yesterday and завтра for tomorrow, as we have discussed about in the previous lessons. Let's repeat once again. Да, есть. Только она не сегодняшняя, а вчерашняя. А какая сегодняшняя газета есть у вас? Московские новости. In Russian, for news, we use this word новости. Московские новости. Moscow's news. И we use for and. Российская правда, the Russian truth. Вот они. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, московские новости. Give me please Moscow's news. Accordingly, dear learners, you can also make your own sentences while using all such kind of expressions and words we have just used in this dialogue. The third one is na poczcie, which means at the post office. У вас есть марки и конверты? Do you have stamps and envelopes? In Russian, for stamp we have a word marka and convert for envelope. Here they are used in plural forms, that is why we are saying marki и конверты. Да есть. А открытки and postcards тоже есть. Дайте мне, пожалуйста, один конверт, 3 открытки и 4 марки. Here you have used 1, 3 and 4, and according to the rule we have just learned, convert, открытка and marka has been converted. Один конверт, 3 открытки и 4 марки. Вот, пожалуйста, спасибо. Here in this series we are going to learn more about such dialogues, that with the help of these dialogues we will be able to understand the exact meaning of these expressions in Russian. The title of the last dialogue is Doma, means at home. Papa, Natasha, ты хочешь мороженое? Мороженое means ice cream. This is from the word moroz, which means frost or ice. You can use as in depending upon the context. Мороженое. Natasha, да хочу. Папа, а ты, Таня, тоже хочешь мороженое? Таня, да, я тоже хочу мороженое. So accordingly, in Russian we have several words for all such things which you need to be remember. Dear learners, with the help of these small dialogues, here we are using the usage of new words and expressions as well as verbs in their conjugated forms. With the help of these conjugated forms of verbs, now you are able to make your own simple sentences as well as sentences in interrogative, affirmative and in negation as well. Thank you.